Well, hello again, it's Friday. Last Friday I did something of a Friday flashback where we looked at some old magazines. I've just been going through some of my old wedding albums from way back in the days when I was very active doing wedding photography, and I don't know whether you can see too much of this. These are just some of the display albums that I managed to put together. We got there. There we are, some shots there. And a lot of the time when I was doing these shots, these are outdoor shots here. These are outdoor ones down at Parliament House in Adelaide. But when I was doing stuff inside, doing things inside the house, see if I can find some colour ones like this type of thing here. These sort of shots here, you can see there, I was using bounce flash, and I was bouncing flash off the ceiling with the setup I had of my Metz 45 and a Quantum battery 2 power pack. And I used to bounce flash off the ceiling and around the place, and I got beautiful exposures. This is all shot on film. Got beautiful exposures like that. So I thought today I'd just show you the setup that I had when I was doing all that stuff. And the best thing I ever learnt to do was bounce flash, and I used to teach other people about bouncing flash off the ceiling. Of course, everyone who's a photographer knows how to do that these days. So I'll show you what I used to do it with. This is back in the days before we had manual focus, before we had autofocus cameras, and this was my camera that I used, although this is the Pentax Super A. In America and other places it was called the Pentax Super Program. You can see it's a beautiful camera, and I've got a really nice little lens on there, a manual zoom, and this one though has got a battery powered motor drive on there. I didn't have that back then. I acquired that after I stopped shooting film weddings, but I wish I had had it back then. It would have been helpful, because each time you took a shot I would wind the film on manually, and I'd focus, make sure my exposure was right, and take the shot. Now of course inside with a flash like this you could actually tilt and swivel and point the flash in all directions like you can these days, and it had a lot of good settings on there where you could adjust aperture and the ISO speed, so you could actually manipulate the just try and get a bit of that reflection out of there. You could actually manipulate the ISO, which would then either over or underexpose your flash. I have got connections where you can use this. It's just connected to the PC socket on the camera at the moment. Not many cameras have those these days, but there's also on the top here you can see there's a dedicated flash hot shoe there too. So I do have leads that come from this to go to that to give me through the flash metering if I wanted to, but I found most of the time I didn't need it. And of course sometimes if the ceiling was too high to bounce off the ceiling, I'd have a rubber band around here and just have a business card up there to reflect the light straight forward, and that used to work, or just an envelope with a rubber band around there, and that used to work beautifully. So that's what I used to take these shots with, the weddings with, and then of course all day long, of course these things had there's another one over here. If you didn't have a battery pack, you were relying on this little capsule down the bottom, which took about six AA batteries, I think, and they would soon run out if you were shooting weddings with just the batteries like that. So the idea is that you needed to have a battery pack, and I came across the Quantum battery pack, which is the Quantum 2 battery pack. There's the controls on the top, and I could shoot 2 weddings in one day on this. I only did it a couple of times, but you could just be assured that you would shoot all day long and the batteries wouldn't run out. Towards the end of the day, instead of having 3 lights on the top, you might get down to 1, but most of the time it just kept going and going and going. So it was a wonderful camera or battery pack to complement this. And of course I used to have a light meter around to check my light as against what was coming through here. So that was my outfit, this Pentax Super A. I swapped over to a Pentax SFXN after that because that had autofocus, and because I wear glasses I used to have a lot of trouble focusing the camera as it was getting towards the late afternoon. It was dark and I had family groups and wedding parties out in the dusk and fading light, and to try and get this split image viewfinder in here to focus on something, I used to use the collar of the guys' shirts to try and get a line, the two lines coming together. But autofocus was a game changer for me, and then I graduated from the Pentax SFXN to the Pentax MZS, which was the last fully professional 35mm film camera that Pentax produced. The other good thing about this Pentax Super A is that all these controls and different settings you can use, like aperture priority and shutter priority and whatever, this camera worked identical to the Pentax 645 film camera which I had. So all the programs on here were the same, so you could seamlessly swap from using this camera to the Pentax 645. Of course that was taking 120 film, this is taking 35mm film. So anyway, there you go. I used to wander around all day with this. I bounce it off the ceiling. I'll see if this works. I was trying it a minute ago and it didn't work on me. I thought the batteries might be flat, so we'll just hold this, we'll just see if the flash goes off. Look at that, and the winder went on. So that's really still working. I've got film in here, so I'll see if I can take a photo of what's on here. Okay, I've got that set at 125 at f5.6, bouncing off the ceiling. One day, if I ever get around to processing the film, which I don't do very often, I might be able to put that on here. So here we go, this is the shot, and we'll be signing off with this Friday flashback, the Pentax Super A, excuse me, the Metz 45CL4 this one is, and the Quantum Battery 2 battery pack. See you later.